because your baseline becomes so good and airy that yeah,
Is it? Okay, that's sick. That's so
you
sick.
can look forward to that. Yeah.
That's cool. So it's like it's worth putting the time in.
Oh, I mean, without doubt, I can't recommend this enough. This has been the biggest, best upgrade to my entire life. Yeah.
Okay.
So, so it is worth it. Yeah.
That's that's sick. It's like quite a niche thing to be like
Mm.
really into it this deep to the extent like you like
Oh
spend a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
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 I'm laughing because it's such a sick conversation. So dope to chat to people about this.
And then you'll have these moments, just like now, you realize, oh, hang on, that's no longer the case, and you start updating how you
Yeah,
speak about
fuck. This is what you said. You said there's like the get it, and then I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm the example.
Yeah, it's cool to see it like in real time.
I had a tiny amount of shrooms, like zero point 0.1 of a gram, zero point 0.2 of a gram,
Mm.
and I had a sip. And it was basically, I held the whole of my body in experience or in awareness. It felt like it was a cloud vibrating. I was like, okay, if there were to be a me here, where would it exist? And then I was like, okay, I felt like there was a solidified sensation in here, solidified sensation here within this cloud, like more
Okay, yeah.
hotspots. And then I knew that this wasn't me. And then I was like, oh my God, the me is like a belief that I hold. It just felt like such a it felt like a heavy thought, but it just felt like such a strong thought, which was interpreting this and all of this as a thing. I never identified like that's the belief that I have of a thing. Like I've never really seen what like a strongly held belief seems to be. In terms of like what seems to have stabilized, I'm much more in the world. It's like gone from like this to like this. And my 360 awareness, which was like coming and going a little bit and like a little bit resistancy, now feels much more of like a settled sense of like, okay, cool.
Does it feel like there's a move you do to get that perspective? Like you've got to kind of initiate a subtle slant your attention in some way to...
It's more recognizing the thing that stops me from seeing that. So it's like, it's open expanse, open awareness. And then there's like this arrow of attention, which still is there. And when I notice that I'm just like identifying with this thing, which is like trying to track stuff like a little red dot trying to trace stuff. As soon as I recognize that, I'm like, okay, that's a feeling sensation. And then I use identification with that. Then it becomes more of like a panoramic thing than like me being focused in and honed in on this. So that's the...
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, so that is the move then. That is the move that you do.
Yeah. Because I'm sitting probably like 2 or 3 hours a day. It feels like the momentum's being maintained of it, rather than like having to consciously move it back. If it makes sense.
Okay, got you. Nice. Well, this sounds like a lot of progress.
What do you think the best way of dealing with this is, or like investigating or chatting through this? Because I feel like I'm somewhat still in learning so much that I'll jump from like topic to topic to topic to topic to topic.
Right. I mean, I think this thing you brought up about sort of that question, yeah, how should it exist? Should there still be sensations here, or how do you make sense of them? Or I just need, they can be there, but I just don't identify with them. Something. I think this is a good point to home in on. If you can find in your experience a part of a sensation that doesn't, it seems like totally hollow, you realize there's no core to the sensation. It's like just gas with no core to it. You can find that phenomena. You recognize, okay, the physics of that apply everywhere as well. So even to the parts that seem more solid, you can kind of do a compare and contrast, sort of like point here and then point here, and then kind of switch attention between the two to recognize, oh, actually they are
It's interesting. I haven't done that. Normally I just like methodically go, but it's interesting because some parts I see the airiness of it super clearly, and some parts feel like hard. So actually bouncing between the two and comparing this with this, not because I've only ever really compared my belief with what the experiences, rather than this experience with another experience.
Yeah. Try that. That's one tactic, at least. Okay. I'll say one thing. It seemed like when you had that, I don't know if it was a quite a micro mushroom dose, but you explained before you had that experience. Maybe what you were experiencing, just there was more energy in the mind, and that, given that sort of consciousness is just a bit more like fuller and awake and energized, that can provide a greater framework to then hold the whole body in awareness, and then you kind of see I'm going to say zoom out, but don't try to draw this witness, you really are zooming out, but zoom out metaphorically,
Yeah.
and get a bigger picture, understand the bigger picture of how things relate to each other. So I'm wondering, maybe it would be helpful for you if you can repeat the same kind of conditions, but without the mushrooms. So like get
You're gonna say
into,
with the mushrooms.
well, without them, ideally without the mushrooms, to realize you don't need the mushrooms,
Yeah.
but to create a more energized state of mind, and then from there do the body scanning. Because I'm just thinking about just building the right conditions for insight so that you're equanimous and awake, and then you can have a greater perspective and clearly see how things are going on. And one way to facilitate equanimity is you can kind of wait to go through the stages of insight, and then notice when you're in equanimity, and then try to ramp up some wakefulness there, and then try and do insight, or through like a concentration route. I believe the mechanics behind equanimity it's the synthesis of your focused attentional region with peripheral awareness, and those like harmonizing and creating more homogeneous like screen of mind. And you can do that by focusing on like make peacefulness your sort of your meditation object. You find some sort of peaceful place in your experience. Not, I think normally in the stomach, there's not a lot going on there, maybe. And as you're focusing on that, normally in the periphery, okay, you'll have like lots of distractions, thoughts, and things like this. But if you can notice a bit further out in the periphery even more, there's like a voidness or a blankness, and then you try to match. I found some kind of emptiness in the middle of my experience with an emptiness in the far periphery, and then you try to like sort of match those, and then create like a homogeneous.
No, literally never.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
So I can find, but you find, is it like the space around something? Or so if I find there's like, let's say I take my sensation in my chest, that's like existing somewhat in around a space that I can't really grab onto, but like I'm aware of. And then you say do that with a sensation which is in my front of attention, and then I also do that for like the background feeling of non-graspable but of spaciousness, and then you move attention between the two.
No, so not that, because you don't want to be deep. Like this. It's like keep attention sort of stable, but you're giving, I don't know, 35% or something of noticing. You try to note what's in the periphery.
You can like check in.
Yeah, it's sort of this big, like I can look forward, but I can still be aware that, okay, I see the sort of the frames, the glasses, and I see the door there, and it's blurry, but I'm still looking forward.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But normally you're looking far enough out in the periphery, it's really the blank voidness, that sort of imagined space. The way to.
You're gonna say a trick would be to do
well, because say you're getting into equanimity, so then you're merging the periphery with focused attention, and now it's sort of more homogeneous. I then, with my eyes closed, then focus on the visual screen. So say before I was paying more to somatic sensation, calmness in the body, but then once I feel like I'm well established in equanimity, and then I focus on the visual screen, my eyes still closed, but focusing on the visual screen. And this promotes wakefulness, because there's something about, even though your eyes are closed, but you're acting as if your eyes are open, because you're like really like looking at your eyelids. And there's this thing like you can't sleep with your eyes open, so it kind of reinforces that sense, no, you are awake. And then by focusing on visual content, the visual field is super thin, right? It comes with much less sort of sense of weightiness than somatic sensations of the body. So then you really thin out your experience. You find the thinness there,
That's super
and then you
interesting.
just sort of reinforcing that, spreading that, and then that just creates really good parameters to then do insight.
So
Can you relate to that? Can you track what I'm trying to?
yeah, I can definitely try that. I try it out. I understand what you're meaning.
So with that thinness, then again, with that thing I was saying before about kind of overlapping the thinness, keeping hold of the sense of thinness with the more stodgy parts of experience.
Yeah, I think last time we chatted, you said that there's the emptiness of one is the emptiness of everything, or like they're the
Mm-hmm.
same. So I think it's such a cool point to find thin aspects. So when I sit there and I see, because I get quite a lot of like cool colors and shit and shapes and all these things, there's the emptiness of that, which is just like it's coming, it's going. There's no real substance to it. Is it seeing that using that as my benchmark when I'm in equanimity and looking at my other parts of existence to see how there's like the same level of nothingness to it?
Well, I feel like almost you're describing kind of a transitory in time sort of dimension of its emptiness.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking more of just forget it's sort of arising and passing, but have you ever had this experience where you could see the world as like a 2D? So a sense of distance that there is a space here between me and the wall. There's just the color just in consciousness, and there's no gap to notice it. It's just here, and so then you think about that. This can become flatter. This experience can become flatter.
Yeah,
Have you had this
I've never
experience?
had that experience. That sounds cool though.
Can you get a hint of it now if you try? The realization is you don't have to look forward through space. It's just whatever you're looking at, it's just here. So I'm just thinking then you could blur your eyesight a bit. I guess that could help. Yeah.
Yeah, just like just soften the focus for it.
Maybe it's something to explore.
Yeah,
I'll give you another hint at this. Maybe you've seen in my videos when I talk about amodal perception. But another thing to notice is that with your visual field, like you're looking at a wall, there's presumption that there's depth to the wall and that there's more to the world behind the wall.
yeah,
And like in the ground as well, that's not an experience. So to take raw experience as it is, this thing is just super thin. There's no depth to the wall. It's like,
it's just the
if it's
appearance of
just,
it.
yeah, if you're making this in sort of 3D graphics, you only need a layer of pixels to fill this in. Experience itself is not rendering into the walls.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So then, so I'm recognizing the mind interpolating what isn't seen as the amodal
Mm-hmm.
part.
Mm-hmm.
What's directly experienced is thin, and then what isn't thin is the interpolation of what is directly experienced.
I think there's a number of sort of binding factors here that will be part of it, but there's also, I think, what happens is your somatic sensations then like actually merge with your visual experience. That is another way of creating sort of the thickness in the environment. Again, if you separate the senses, again, just focus on just seeing, and seeing through the illusion of the amodal perception part, and then seeing how that's empty, not paying attention to that, just take the visual field as it is, independent of the somatic sensations that there will be. Um,
Well, yeah, this is the first time I'm actually thinking about it, but it's actually mad if there is nothing but.
yeah. You got to be a bit creative here to think about how you can break up your experience. Notice like the little tricks, like what's going on. So I think the next level is even to do this with somatic sensations. But first, get a sense of the thinness and airiness of visual sights. I think that's more accessible. Okay, when you're doing body scanning, I think even in the Goenka retreats, they say like scan in the body. So they go, oh, you scan the organs and you scan like deep. And I think actually, for the most part, that's not true. We don't have nerve endings everywhere, and you can't like scan your lungs. Like that's not. I think there are little places you can feel inside, but for the most part, what happens a lot is you're scanning actually kind of the more surface level of your body, and you're following an edge, and then the mind. Sorry, I'll give another example real quick. this one where you scan your attention around your visual field, and then you keep scanning around, and then it starts linking up with somatic sensations around the back of the head, right? And this creates that unification of seeing and then an edge and then feeling.
That's so
But actually,
interesting.
attention just did like a little jump. Now it went
Yeah.
from visual to some. But we if you're not paying attention, you think, oh, that's like one unified sort of track line. But no, it just like jumped. Yeah.
That's so mad. I've always,
Did you just get it?
yeah, it's just like visual, 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 feel, hear, feel.
Yeah, exactly. So that's happening a lot with body scanning as well, where you're scanning round and you think, oh, I'm scanning into my body. It's like, no, you're scanning here and then you just jump to the back. But the mind is like filling in the gap and like projecting that, oh, I'm feeling deep into the. And then when you start seeing these little tricks, that's when you realize like how hollow the body actually is. And then eventually permanently it just becomes like really holographic.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Monty. Good to speak with you.
That was super helpful. Thank you so
Uh,
much for your time. I really appreciate
No,
it.
good. Glad to
Catch
hear.
you.
All right, take care.